His appeal rejected, Saddam Hussein now faces the hangman, the result of a fair trial or the decision of a kangaroo court. Welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. His enemies believe he deserves what he got, and his crimes sealed his fate. His supporters see his demise as a sham trial engineered by Washington and designed to humiliate the resistance in Iraq. And they vow the Americans and their supporters will pay a heavy price for his execution. Human rights organizations have attacked the decision by the Iraqi appeals court to uphold Saddam Hussein's death sentence. Many international jurists say it is true. The former Iraqi president brutalized his enemies and denied them due process. Equally, though, they have condemned what they see as his unfair trial. Two wrongs don't make it right, they say. While these arguments increase concerns about Iraq's future stability, others say Saddam's execution would be a vindication of the US-led invasion. Here's Kimberly Halkett.
The trial of Saddam Hussein has been controversial from start to finish, but its decision is now final. Within weeks or even days, the former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein will be executed by hanging. Public reaction to the death sentence has been divided in Iraq along historical and religious lines. In the United States, reaction has been mostly political. Some in Washington are highly critical of the Iraqi judicial process, accusing it of being flawed and too influenced by the Bush White House.
This court basically represented vengeance more than it did justice. Saddam may be transformed in the eyes of many of his supporters and even the eyes of some of the others as a victim. The verdict was announced 2 days before the election, and this sentence was upheld a few days or a few weeks before the administration announces its policies in Iraq.
Others see it differently, saying the process should be viewed as a vindication of policies pursued by the Bush administration in Iraq, and that Hussein's sentence is justice by Iraqis for Iraqis.
Whatever the problems may have been in the trial of Saddam Hussein, this is a truly repellent human being. And out of all of the cases that affect human rights in the world, Saddam Hussein almost has to be the last in a queue.
Many in Washington now believe Iraq has evolved beyond Saddam Hussein, and the challenges the U.S. faces are no longer tied to the former Iraqi dictator, but instead to quelling the escalating violence that has gripped the fledgling democracy.
I won't say Saddam is irrelevant. It's very likely if there is an execution, there'll be at least a spike in violence, a spike in incidents. But the truth is that Saddam alive would be a problem as well, and would also be seen as a martyr and potential political catalyst.
Still, with record low approval ratings in the United States for his handling in Iraq, President Bush is under intense pressure to come up with a new military strategy. That's why the Saddam Hussein death penalty ruling is being hailed as a major milestone by a White House desperately seeking success in Iraq. Kimberly Halkett for Inside Iraq, Washington.
To discuss Saddam's trial and the implication of his death sentence, I'm joined from Dubai by Bassam al-Husseini, an advisor to the Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki. And from London is Sabah al-Mukhtar, president of Arab Lawyers Association. And from New York City, joining us is Richard Dicker, director of the International Justice Program for Human Rights Watch. Gentlemen, welcome to Inside Iraq. Sabah, let me start with you. Was this a fair trial? Did Saddam receive what could be said a fair trial, or was the Iraqi government has wasted a very valuable opportunity?
Laws of war prohibits occupying force from setting up extraordinary courts, and this is exactly what the Americans have done. Saddam Hussein was put on trial without him or his lawyers having even the indictment sheet, which sets out the charges, the evidence, the documents, and what have you before the trial started. Saddam's trial, he was denied proper access to lawyers. 3 of his defense team were murdered. 5 others outside the team who were advisors have also been murdered. Judges have been interfered with their affairs to the extent that even the judge that this government has appointed has resigned. The other one has been removed. It showed the total lack of impartiality and independence of this trial. This is definitely a wasted opportunity. This is nothing more than a Wild West lynching process. They've tried to set up a trial in the situation where there is a war in that country. You cannot hold proper trials in a state of war. And this is exactly what this situation in Iraq. All the others who are supporting it are referring to the, all those who are supporting this are referring to how bad the man was. Maybe we agree on that one, but we are talking about the trial and not the man.
Bassam, this is a political trial, according to Sabah al-Mukhtar. Iraqi judges were partial, as a matter of fact, and they went out of their way to put the man to death. How do you answer that charge?
I don't believe what Mr. Mukhtar is saying. He's undermined the fact of the matter. This is an Iraqi judicial process. It's very independent in their own decision. The Iraqi government did not interfere in any shape, in any form in that matter. We've gone through a very lengthy process of with this court. We started back in October 19, 2005. By the time we finished to a verdict was November 5, and had to go to an appeal chamber. Everything was totally independent. The Iraqi people are very happy to see justice being served. The first time ever, I think, from the new era of Iraq, the new Iraq, the most beneficial of the whole ordeal was Saddam Hussein, because he is the one he had to go through the new process of democracy with all the vicious acts and killing and mass graves and all these what he did to Iraq, to the Iraqi people. I think Saddam deserved the death sentences. It was very fair process. I don't believe the human rights organization, where were they when my people were being killed and slaughtered by Saddam Hussein?
You asked the question, Bassam, about the Human Rights Watch. We have somebody from the Human Rights Watch which attacked and criticized the decision, and you cited interference by the Iraqi government. Richard, was politics or law the determining factor in the outcome?
Well, first, if I may, I'll tell you exactly where Human Rights Watch was when Saddam Hussein was slaughtering innocent civilians around the country. We were doing everything that we could to document those human rights crimes, publish them, put pressure on governments to bring a halt. We were in northern Iraq in 1992 collecting information about the genocidal campaign that the Ba'ath Party government carried out against the Kurdish population in the north. I spent 2 years of my life in 1994 and 95 trying to persuade governments to bring a genocide case against Iraq for the extermination of the Kurds. So that's my track record. As to the fairness of the trial, we documented, on the basis of being in the courtroom for about 80% of the proceeding, a trial that was seriously not fair. I wouldn't use the term kangaroo court, but I would say that there were serious failures on the part of the Iraqi High Tribunal to afford to Saddam and the others what would be recognized as a fair trial. I think those shortcomings undercut the credibility and legitimacy of the process. Now I want to go back to the point about a lost opportunity. What's lost here is the creation of an indisputable factual record that in years going forward will serve the people of Iraq as a reference point as to what happened under Ba'ath Party rule and who was responsible. I think that is a real loss.
Sabah, if you are to compare Saddam's trial with the trial of El Dujayl, how would you compare the two?
Well, in the trial of Dujayl, there were about 300 people who were arrested at the time after there was an attempt on the life of the head of the state, regardless of what we think of him. Those people went through a process of about 2 years of investigation, trial, and obviously there was some abuse of human rights there. It was not documented. It's not in front of the eyes of the world, as is the case here. They had lawyers to defend them. Out of those people, about 150 were found to be guilty. They were sentenced to death. Under the Constitution, the head of state had to ratify it. Now, that is not a crime in itself. Now, we can, if we are assuming this is a human rights abuse, you could try the judge if you want, but the judge was doing his job. Now, he had less of a chance to defend himself than those who have died in the jail trial at that time.
Sabah, let me stop you for just a second, please. I need to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion with the rest of the panelists. Stay with us.